The Mental Health Matters, a podcast for teens show, is presented solely for general informational, educational, and entertainment purposes. The use of information on this podcast or materials discussed from this podcast is at the listener's own risk. This podcast is not an alternative for mental health assistance and/or counseling with a licensed professional. It is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or other qualified professional diagnosis or treatment. Listeners should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice for any medical or mental health condition they may have, and should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions. For any specific medical questions about your condition and/or concerns, please contact your healthcare provider. This podcast should not be considered professional advice, but rather for the sole purpose of information and education.
From Woodstown High School
and the Communications Academy,
this is Mental Health Matters, a podcast for teens.
I'm Nate Thomas.
And I'm Katarina DeWitt.
This is a podcast about teenagers and mental health, because as teens, we have a lot going on in life. Stress, anxiety, etc.
Life can get pretty difficult, and listening to others' teens' struggles and how they deal with it helps.
Before we get started today, we're going to be talking about social media and other related topics. If you or someone you know needs help, seek out your school's student assistant counselor.
And if social media is a triggering topic for you, we recommend you skip the episode or listen with a trusted adult. So, Nate, how are you doing?
Honestly, Kat, I'm doing really good. We just finished the musical. We just had all of our shows, and it went great. I got to see a lot of people. It was a little sad, our last show, but
yeah, especially as a senior, it's gotta suck.
yeah, but great experience, and everyone loved it. I got roses thrown at me on my last day, so that was really fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I came and saw. It was really good. I saw some of my friends from cheer dance on stage. Dimitri was in it as well.
Yes,
that
he was.
Interesting.
The
Could
Candyman.
never expect him to be in a musical.
Oh my gosh, no, it was great. He came in. He was like, "Hey, I know you guys need guys," and we were like, "Yeah, we do." So he got a role.
Yeah, nice.
So how have you been?
Pretty good. I just got back from my FBLA trip. I was there for 3 days. It was really stressful. I did not sleep very much, or eat nutritious sleep. So I came home hangry and tired. But I had a good time. I've been screaming for 3 days. That's why my voice sucks. I saw Tana Mojo's canceled podcast live on Sunday night, and then I went to FBLA, and we won some awards all 3 days. So I was literally screaming for 4 days straight.
Yeah.
So, R.I.P. my voice.
Yeah. So, Kat, how do you describe this podcast to your friends?
I tell them it's a podcast about mental health from a teen's perspective. It allows them to explain their own personal experiences and the world from their own eyes.
Yeah, and not only does this podcast contain what's on our minds, it also contains what's on the minds of other students who are our age.
Yeah, I love that we get to give our friends a chance to open up about their own personal experiences and talk about it on such a public platform. I love that we also get to give advice from the student assistance counselor. Miss Mack is here today to give advice about our topic.
Yep, and there is definitely a lot going on our minds.
If you'd like to introduce yourself, Miss Mack.
Hi, I'm Miss Mack. I'm the Student Assistance Coordinator, the SAC for short. And I just meet with students for a whole bunch of different reasons. One of the things usually is substance abuse, which is what the SAC role is usually associated with. But sometimes that role kind of blurs into other things. So like social media, what you guys are talking about today, right? And body image is huge, not just for your generation, right? But for other people struggling with mental health. So sometimes it's things in regards to that. Sometimes it's anxiety. Sometimes it's depression. Sometimes it's grief. And because my role is associated with substance abuse, all of these other things usually kind of bleed into that. Mm-hmm. So really like anything in regards to mental health.
Yep. Me and Miss Mack have had some very nice conversations the past month.
Yes, we have. Yeah. Personally, I have been to Miss Mack a couple of times. She is very helpful to get to talk to an adult, especially since there's so much confidentiality. Like I feel like I don't have to worry about anyone knowing my business when I come to you.
Yeah.
Which I know sometimes people feel like that when they go to the school about certain issues.
It's a genuine, safe environment.
Yeah.
Also, I really like the toys that you have in there.
The fidgets are great.
The fidgets are,
Yes,
yeah, the
and
fidgets
the
are,
snacks,
I mess with them a lot in there.
Do you feel like students talk about social media or online drama a lot when they come to talk to you?
I think that in the middle school, I have a lot more situations where it will be online drama, like online. I guess you could classify that on Snapchat, or I think a lot of now what I've realized is that a lot of students talk on different platforms, social media platforms, rather than through text, which was a learning thing for me because I'm like, I don't understand why you're not just talking through text. So I think because the communication is I don't know the word for that, but like majority of communication is on these platforms, a lot of drama start on these platforms as well. And a lot of times students do come in and they'll show me like a video or a picture, right, of a celebrity that they see on social media. And not that that's usually the primary thing that they'll come in and talk about, but you do kind of see like where they will start comparing themselves or bring in how this is somebody that might influence their life in some type of way.
I mean, personally, I don't know a lot. I've never really had a lot of guy friends until high school, and all of my experience with like social media, I feel like I did experience that in middle school a little bit as a freshman year. So I really don't know how guys feel about that, but definitely the whole comparing myself to other people, especially celebrities or just influencers in general, like that is so real. Definitely impacted my mental health a lot when I was younger.
And I never had social medias until high school started, so I don't have those younger experiences. However, I will say, especially after I started going to the gym, or I see people on my social media who are big or muscular or like the ideal body of a man, and sometimes I can look at myself in the mirror and be like, I don't look like that, is there something wrong? But obviously I've gone past all that, and all it's done for me is make me want to better myself. So
Yeah, and that's great that you were able to do that. I think a lot of people, even beyond your age, right, my age, even older, tend to struggle with the comparison because I think as a society, that's kind of how it's been portrayed, right? Or like these are the people that you look up to, and these are the people that you're supposed to look like and be like. And I know you brought up body image, and actually, a student recently told me this, and I found this really interesting. He was trying to get this girl's number and like trying to go on a date with her, and he started getting a lot of anxiety. And one of the things that he mentioned was that he finds himself comparing himself to other guys or students his age that he sees videos of on social media, where they would do these grand gestures for the females, right? So like buying flowers or serenading them in class or whatever it is, and he feels like he needs to live up to those expectations. And so I thought it was interesting how even something like that could affect you on social media.
wow,
Yeah,
I never even thought of that. That's wow, yeah.
I was gonna say it's not even like, I mean, I've had my own struggles with body image, but like it's not even just limited to that. Like I see people who are in the same career field that I want to be in, and I'm like, I wish that I had the money to go do that same job, or I knew the people to get in on that like company, whatever. Like just in general so I feel like it's social media like is perfect for breeding like jealousy.
Yes. My big thing was always height. I'm not the tallest guy out there. I am average height at best. So when I was younger, and even like morely like my freshman year and stuff, when I realized I was stopping growing, I would get really anxious about that, or I'd get really self-conscious, like why am I not taller? Meanwhile, I have a dad who's 5'4" and a mother who's 5'4". So I mean, I'm not working with much, but
I find that so interesting though, because like he felt the pressure to be that way, or like live up to the expectation, but like that's not who you are. And like in some aspects, like people are looking at social media and other people like they like, oh, I want to be like that because I feel like I am that way. But then it is like people want to act like that way, a certain way, because they feel like that's right, even though that's not how they feel. I hope that I explained that well. The words weren't wording, but you get my point.
yeah. One thing I kind of want to talk on is which we've been talking on, is influencers, but mainly the male influencers who I usually don't personally agree with, but the ones that are saying oh, you have to have money. You have to have really good clothing, really a big house. You have to have all this to be successful, or to get girls, you need to act like this. And the way that a lot of these people are telling these children to act is not right, and it's influencing them poorly. Would you say that you see more bad decisions like being put out to children than good decisions on social media? If that makes sense.
Yeah. It's hard for me to have a very strong opinion on that because I think I'm not a child, right?
Yeah,
So
fair
I'm not
enough.
seeing what they're seeing, right? So my content, and that's also social media, it's geared towards things that you like, right? That there's an algorithm to it. So it's not, I don't know what everybody is seeing and what exactly, you guys are seeing versus what I'm seeing. However, I do, when you're saying that, I'm thinking success, right? You said all these things make you successful, right? And something I always say to students and to anyone who I talk to is, what is your definition of successful? For some people, it is money, right? For some people, like my family, it used to be money, and now it's all about health. Because
Yes.
as we get older and we realize that people are unhealthy, we start prioritizing that. And the one thing about social media is I think that success is more looked at in terms of like materialistic, right? And when we're talking about influencers, think about it. Influencers are, usually brands reach out to them to promote or advertise their items, right? And so they're doing it for another company. So of course it's going to be more materialistic. So I don't know if it's necessarily bad or good decision making, but I do think that it gives or instills a certain mindset for
Yes.
kids or people.
Yeah, I talked about that a lot with our guest today. When we come back from the break, we're going to introduce Emma Stewart, and she's going to talk about her experience with social media and how it affect her opinions about her dance career.
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Thanks for hearing me out, bro.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
Welcome back from the break. We're going to introduce you to our guest. If you would like to tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Emma Stewart. I'm a senior. I'm on the cheer team here. I coach Powder Puff. I do Wolverine Wars. And then in my spare time after school, from the time I get home, from the time it's time to go to bed, I dance. And
Yeah.
I've been doing that for 17. This is my 17th year.
Yes, we have cheered together for a couple years now, and I know you're very dedicated to dance. I remember you telling me that when you were in the 7th grade, you had your gallbladder removed, and that had a really large effect on your career. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well.
So for a while, I had really bad stomach issues, and I had gone to many doctor's appointments. No one really knew. They thought I had celiacs. They thought it was me being sick, and it just wasn't. So the final solution, I guess, to that was that I had gallstones, and so I had to have my entire gallbladder removed. So now I'm living with that one, but I was out of dance for a while for that surgery because it is pretty intense, and especially at the age I was at, because I was so young. It was in 2018, so I was in 7th grade, and it was scary. So that was the biggest thing for me at the time. And then after the surgery, my biggest thing was that I couldn't dance.
Yeah. How long was it, did it take for you to do like physical therapy or whatever you had to do to get back?
For my gallbladder, I didn't have to do any physical therapy, but I had to sit for like a month. And so that's a lot of training that you're missing throughout all of that time.
So, as someone who, when they get told to sit, doesn't want to, how hard really was that for you? Because I'm sure, like, you've been dancing, you said 17 years now?
Yeah, so
Obviously, you love dance.
Yeah.
So, I feel like if I were to be taken away from something like that, it would play a big role in my mental.
Yeah,
So.
it really is, honestly. The feeling of your doctor sitting you down and saying you can't dance for X amount of months or a year or however many days you have to sit out of whatever sport it is, honestly. But especially for me with dance, sitting out of that was training I was losing, people getting better when I was sitting out, and just kind of missing having the escape of like not focusing on what was happening in a normal life for me, I guess. So sitting was more of like a mental block. And I had to work around it because there was nothing I could really do at the time. You just kind of have to sit.
Yeah.
You have to do what you're supposed to.
Yeah. If you don't work to recover, you're gonna be out for even longer.
Right, that's the biggest thing. If you keep pushing yourself, you're just gonna make things worse, and then you're gonna be out for longer.
So you were talking about how you use dance as an escape, and I feel the exact same way when it comes to acting, like musicals, because I get to play a different role, you know. And I wanted to ask Miss Mack, do you believe you see that a lot in students? Like when they are stressed or anxious, they'll go to a certain hobby, activity, whether it be a sport like dance or a thing like acting, just to get away from like their life in a way?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the number one thing that people do in general, right, is they want to distract, right? And when we're thinking about something like dance, something like acting, something like sports, these I classify as mindfulness activities, right? Because all you're doing when you're in that moment is focused in on that moment. So the rest of your everyday life just goes away when you're in that moment. And things like dance and exercise actually do create, right, going a little psychology here, but they do create endorphins in your brain, right? So it gives you some of those happy chemicals.
Awesome. Chemicals. Didn't know I was in chemistry.
When have you always done like a certain? I know there's like competition dance, and then there's like just performances to like family and friends. You know what I mean? What have you always done? Just a certain type? Or?
So from the age of 2 until I was 5, I was just doing regular dance. So I was just coming in on like a Monday and a Tuesday and taking a ballet class and a tap class because I was still little. And then as you work up, you kind of start taking more classes. So then I would work up to a jazz class. So then I would be taking 3 classes. Once I made it to age 5, I got asked to be on a competition team. And with that, you have to take extra classes, and you have a mandatory amount of times that you can be at the studio, like, and amount of times you can miss. So I can only miss 6 times a year for each of my classes. And so that's a lot, especially working around like schoolwork and anything that's going on in your life outside of dance, other sports that you have going on, because I know sometimes there's people that do multiple sports or have multiple hobbies. You have to kind of figure out the schedule, or else things
6
kind
days
of
a
run
year. 6 days a year is crazy because we can miss 12 before we get held back in school.
And I was about to say, how many days do you have dance practice like throughout a year?
Do you ever have like a season off or like a month off?
Like could you give like an estimated number of how many dance classes you have in a year?
Oh my gosh.
She's like 365.
365.
Yeah, like, but that's wrong because I have 3 classes. Think about it, like my Wednesday, I have 4 classes. I'm dancing for 4 hours on Wednesdays after school.
That's crazy.
And everything else that day.
I dance for an hour at Powder Puff or like over
Yeah.
and I'm gassed.
We're doing
I know, I
school
teach
and
them
I'm like-
powder puff and they're all dying.
Yeah, just
That's wild.
But yeah, I take like 18, I think I have 18 like recital dances
Yeah.
combined.
Do you feel like you've made a lot of friends through dance though?
Yeah, 100%. It's like the most supportive group of girls I've ever kind of had, and I think it's because we all have the same experience outside of school.
Yeah. I know a lot of people use social media to like put their passion out there. Do you have any stuff that you post about dance?
Yeah, I have a private like story on Snapchat where I share any videos of me dancing for whoever wants to watch it. That one is more kind of for myself to just kind of get things out and show people what I can do. And then I have a dance account on Instagram, which is to get my name out more to colleges and other recruiters, whatever it would be, that process. But on those, I post more of my group dances and pieces that I want to remember if I have videos from them so that I can go back to that later and I can be like, wow, I did really great with that dance. Or opposite, but you know what I mean.
it's like that sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I know like during cheer season, my entire Instagram feed is all cheer stuff. Do you
yeah.
get a lot of like
As soon as cheer season is over, it switches to dance.
period? That's so cute. Do you feel, how does that like make you feel about yourself and your own experience? like seeing everybody
Yeah.
else's and sharing their stories?
Depending on the day, it changes, I would say. Certain things that go out on social media are better than others, I guess, especially for dancers. We deal a lot with body image problems and eating, just kind of comparing issues to, like, between ourselves. Jealousy is a big one, and all of those things are posted about, but then there's also the good things that are posted about, like how great the team is as a whole, and being able to escape, like I said earlier. Like, there's good things and bad things, but I definitely think there are a lot of things that hurt to hear about, or, like, make you think more than you probably should,
Yeah.
or take you back to a specific moment even sometimes.
I remember when we talked previously, you talked about how some girls talk about their experience in college dance and the crazy schedules that they have to stick to. How does that, like, do you think that ever, like, you want to impose that on yourself because you compare?
Yeah, so I think that this is something I've done my whole life, and I enjoy it, and it helps me so much. If I didn't have dance, I honestly have no idea where I would be. I would be lost. I would not be the same person. But I think that me putting myself in the position to move forward with the dance, like my dance process and my dance path, I definitely am looking into college dance, even though the schedule is crazy. I think that if I were to stop dancing completely right after college, it would be very hard on me, mentally and physically, because dance makes me so active and keeps me very healthy. If I'm not dancing, the only other thing I do to exercise is run. So without having dance, there would be a lot less working out, and then things could change, and that could cause problems. So I think as long as I keep up with, like, a healthy schedule and still think about it and myself in the moment and what I really need, I think it'll be okay.
Yeah. I'm so excited to see you dance in college.
I'm so excited too. I can't wait to be at the dance Super Bowl. I'm so excited.
I think people underestimate, like, the value of physical activities in your life, because, in all honesty, after last year when I didn't make the baseball team, which I was kind of fine with, I've kind of hung up the hat on baseball, but it was hard for me to get back into a good physical well-being. I gained about 20 pounds, which isn't that much, but to me it is. But without having that physical, like, activity in my life, my mental was okay, but without the physical, it just wasn't a good balance for me.
You're so real, because I've never liked any sport that I've ever been in, ever, until cheer. And now that cheer is over, I love cheer, and I was a captain. I'm not gonna say I was the worst, but I definitely am not. I can't tumble. I'm not gonna make a college team. So it's like I'm never gonna do anything. I'm never gonna exercise ever again, because I only like cheer.
I lost my ability to flip, and I need to get that back for Wolverine Wars.
I know you really do.
I do, yeah.
Don't tell your mom.
Oh, don't watch this, Mom.
But yeah.
I feel like a lot of people talk about, especially when during cheer season, you say it a lot about, like, looking in the mirror every day distorts your own perception of yourself. What is your experience with that?
I have a long week of dance, as we were talking about, and when I added up the amount of time that I am in the studio looking in the mirror, it came out to be 18 hours a week.
I love that you did the math for us.
And
That's
that's
crazy.
just in the studio. That's set aside from me getting ready in the morning, and after I shower, washing my face, brushing my teeth, doing my hair, all of those things. Like, I'm still having those experiences too, along with all of these hours that I'm staring at myself for classes every week. And I think along with the mirror being in front of me staring at myself, not only does it make me think more about my body, but I know that it makes me compare myself to others, because the mirror is not only just me seeing myself. And that, like, sounds crazy, because they're like, tell the girl in the mirror that it's gonna be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a lot of girls in the mirror when you're standing in a dance class.
Yeah.
Bringing this into social media, like, people who are doing things like sports even, or, like, they'll go on their phone on social media and they'll see a clip of someone doing something that they think they can't do, and now they got that in their head. Oh my God, that guy's great. I could never do that.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's kind of where you draw the line. When you see someone doing a super cool trick on Instagram, do you think to yourself, "Wow, I can never do that," or do you think I want to be like her and I want to try that? But also, people do go to the extreme and
Yeah.
take it too far.
It's definitely changed over the course of the time that I've had social media. I know that there's certain times that my dance teacher will send me like videos on Instagram and be like, "Can you try this? Because I want to put it in a dance." And then those things I'm like, "Yeah, of course I can."
Yeah.
Some things more reasonable than others, but she still sends them for us to try. And then there's other things that you just watch and you're like, "That's crazy. I probably could never do it." But I'm more impressed than focused on how I can't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's how it ends up being for me.
I remember for Powder Puff this year, you would send videos obviously of you doing the thing, so we could learn ourselves. And you sent a video of the LSU dance teams. Go LSU, by the way. But you sent a video of the LSU dance teams. That was our dance that we did,
It
and
was so hard.
I told myself I can't do that. I was like, I can't do
Yeah,
that.
everyone
Yeah,
at first, they
physically
all thought they
can't
couldn't do
do
it,
that.
and they all
Powerpuff.
got it.
But
They all have the
once
mental block.
once we all started to like hype ourselves up and like get confident, we were able to do it.
Yeah,
and
that's so true.
first place.
And you all being teenage boys.
First place.
This is our biggest
Yes.
right,
Yes.
enemy. It really
Yes.
is. I mean, like I'm thinking about how. So I go to this gym where there's a coach and they like do a class every day. So each class, there's this one coach, Coach Kimmy, and she like we're running and we'll run for like 30 minutes straight, right? And then she'll like 10 minutes in, she'll tell us, she's like, "It's all mental here. Everything from this point is mental," right? And I'm like, "Yeah, my legs don't hurt. It's just like me telling myself like I ran too much. I don't think I can go any further than this," right? And ultimately, that's what ends up making me walk or stop, right? But when I keep, usually what helps me though is like in the room, if nobody else is stopping, I don't want to be that one person that's just like kind of
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know, is being lazy. So
It's
I'm
like the pacer test.
yeah, it's
I don't
Oh
wanna
my
be the first
goodness!
one out.
You can
No,
never.
you don't
But
wanna
once
be the
that first
first one.
person goes out, like
And
20
everybody
else
people.
else does, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's so interesting. And there's a study, and I don't ever really remember the name of the study or exact details, right? But it was a study that we learned about throughout a lot of my psychology classes. And it was, I forget it was like second grade or third grade, but it was elementary school. And what they did was they took a group of students and they told the teachers for the grade that they're going into. So, for instance, if it was fourth grade, they'll tell the fifth grade teachers, "Hey, these students from this list are good students, and these students from this list are bad students," right? And this was all random. So it was like randomized. There was actually no truth to whether or not these students were
Okay,
bad
I was
or good,
about
right?
to get
Like
concerned.
they just wanted to see how the teachers would react to it. And so what ended up happening was the teachers actually treated the students that were labeled as bad. They would give them more behavioral, like they would write them up a lot more. They would say that, you know, on the report cards, they would say the student called out more or acted out more. And the students that were said to be good or labeled as good, even though there was no actual truth to this, they would call on them more and actually give them the chance to answer questions more and said that they participated more, right? And the interesting part of that is that the students, after a while, after they started getting told that they were bad students or good students, they actually behaved in the way that they were told. So I thought that was interesting how, right, like when we believe that we are something, we become that, right? So same thing with this is that when you tell yourself you can do it, you can do it. But if you keep telling yourself you can't do it, you're not going to be able to do it because you have convinced yourself that already. So it's replacing some of that mindset and realizing that sometimes like it's really you who can be the one that changes it all.
Yeah.
That was really
Well
interesting.
put. Yeah. Wow. That was.
We
That's
learned
like,
about something like that in Soch.
Yeah.
I want to be in so bad. It makes me so jealous. I'm
I
across
love
the hall in woodshop.
sociology is pretty cool.
We
I wish
learned
I
about
took it.
like people follow kind of.
Yeah, I would say
People are
social media
followers.
is
Everyone is
the epitome of beehive mentality.
social media is like I forget the word that we used in Soch, but it's everyone changes based off of what other people are doing.
Mhm.
So if you see something, even if you think that's weird, and then everyone is doing it, you're probably gonna change too.
I mean, that's kind of like why we have trends.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
That's a big part of social media. I feel like for me.
and I mean, a lot of times they can just be fun, silly trends. Sometimes they can actually be harmful, like
People
the
eat
Tide
Tide Pods.
Pods. High five, same time.
Yeah.
But like the Tide Pod challenge, a challenge to eat a Tide Pod.
Remember
Like,
when
are
they
you
were
kidding
eating
me?
spoonfuls of cinnamon?
Yes,
Which is
because you're
actually
supposed
very
to throw
harmful for you
up.
because it can
Yeah.
close your airways. I remember I was really young one time and I was impressionable. And it was like at that time where everybody was eating spicy things. So I thought it'd be a great idea to get a shot of hot sauce and just down it. Wow. So stupid. I did film it. It was not a
Yeah,
good
or
idea.
my
I
gosh.
was gonna
I'm
think
in
that people
comp-
doing it for
After
like
that-
the views.
Yeah.
After
I'm
that,
in-
what
I
is the
never. After that, I
purpose?
never
Right.
did a trend after that
I'm in
because I said
communica-
I'm not gonna. No, you're okay. I was just like, no, I'm never gonna do something stupid like that again. I was like, that hurt. Like,
Yeah. I'm in communications now, so like it's cute that when I was younger, I was making all these videos of myself to like micro trends and all this. But like that is so embarrassing. Like think about how like
digital footprint.
and like I don't know what word to use, but from such a young age, we were told, "Here's an iPad, make a video, do what you want." I didn't watch YouTube. I don't watch. All my friends were like, "Oh, I remember this Disney show, this Disney movie." I was on my iPad. I was watching YouTube. I don't know any Disney classic because I never watched it. Instead, I was on YouTube. Like I was just like taught to be a YouTuber,
Yeah.
influencer. Like social media has been my only form of entertainment since I was 8 years old.
So actually, I have a
Like that is so wild.
yeah.
And like you said, my digital footprint.
Digital
I don't
footprint
even wanna
is
know.
so.
I don't
There's
even want to know.
okay. There's digital footprint of me in a dress for Powder Puff. Okay,
Yeah, the Shakira
like my
outfit.
like
That's not
my.
a dress. That was like
What
a
is a
beaded.
digital
I don't even
footprint?
know.
I don't even know what
Yeah.
that was either.
What
it
is
was
a digital footprint?
It's like
everything that
that
you've ever put out
on the internet. You delete
It's
an
out there.
Instagram post, but someone can screenshot it and post it on their Instagram
It's-
and like
it's
pretend
not
that you
gone.
are them as like a bot. You know what I mean? It's never gone. Everything is low key on the internet forever.
Yes.
Yeah, basically
And in fact,
saying that everyone can find anything
That's
that you
scary.
post.
Yeah.
so
Like your digital footprint is
sorry.
anything you've ever created at all.
Yeah. So for journalism this year, we actually did a project where we found photos of ourselves and other things of our digital footprint. And we had to ask ourselves, would someone hire me off of my digital footprint? I said no, because there are way too many videos of me like dancing in a dress and just like,
You think that's why they wouldn't hire you?
no, not actually. I'm just messing. I'd get hired. I'm a good kid.
Yes, you
but
are.
like, you know what I mean? I mean, and for kids that
I can't say
do
the same. I would not get hired.
for kids that do some really stupid things on social media or say things that they shouldn't, and I think you know who like things I'm talking about, that they're ruining, like, okay, I shouldn't say the word ruin, but that drastically affects your life. For instance, he was a Georgia football player, or I'm sorry, Florida State football player, and he was like the #1 prospect in the country. He was at a bar, and he punched a girl. He got kicked from every single team in college. That kid could have probably made it to the NFL, but he did something that was bad, obviously, and his actions were filmed and everyone saw it. So he lost a good opportunity. And I had something I wanted to ask you, Miss Mack, but I think I'm forgetting what
It's
it
okay.
was.
But you reminded me, my sister actually knew this kid she was friends with in middle school, and they had a falling out. But she told me this not too long ago. She said that when he was in college, they dug up some of his tweets on Twitter, and he
Oh, no.
was posting song lyrics with the N-word in it, right? Which was like, I guess, more, it was less talked about it being a bad thing, right? Like at that time. So he used it and it was in a song lyric, and he actually got kicked out of school.
Yeah.
for
College?
it. Yeah. Even though it was something that happened back in middle school. So.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it was
Okay.
a
And that's a-
reflection
Can
of
always
his
come back.
character, and that's what they
Yeah.
used it
And
as.
that's okay.
I don't know my opinion because I am not of color, but it's sad in a way because you don't know if he's changed since middle school.
Yes, and that
College and middle school, that's a big jump.
it's a very big jump. And with that being said, another student came. Actually, the student came up to me. It was the beginning of this week, and I was pretty amazed by it. So he's sitting down and he says to me, he's like, "Miss Mack, it was just different when you went to school." And I was like, well, how do you know? I was like, I didn't graduate that long ago. But he was like, no, it was very different. And I was like, well, you weren't here. Like, tell me why you think that, right? And he said, he was like, well, for one, you didn't have social media like we do.
Yeah.
Right? And I was like, you are absolutely correct. And he was like, right? Like, if I want to get away from someone, they can find me on so many different platforms. It's not as easy, right? It's not that, even if this person doesn't go to the school, like they have that, they're able to do that.
Thank you, friend.
Something else that he said, he was like, and then the fear that anything that I post or anything that I'm doing on social media will be in the wrong hands. Or if there's like a rumor about me, it's not going to go away, right? It's always there. Or a memory will pop up for someone and someone will be reminded, even though I think that everybody got over it.
Miss Mac talking about how, it was different when you went to school compared to us. It's so true. There are kids that have phones from the age of like 10. I didn't get a phone until I came into freshman year, in all honesty, and even then I still didn't have social media. But there are a lot of kids that they make a mistake, it will never go away, which does hurt sometimes because everybody is entitled to make a mistake, That doesn't, in my opinion, a mistake doesn't, it doesn't determine who you are as a person, especially if you haven't matured yet, So when people are digging these things from like 12 years ago and everything, like, there's always a chance that there are people that are going to have to think, oh my God, I hope somebody doesn't find me doing that thing from 20 years ago because that could ruin my life. Even though it happened 20 years ago, it could ruin my life. And one more thing. Sorry. I remember what I was going to ask you. And it was along the lines of this. Do you think it's hard for parents necessarily to understand a lot of these effects of social media, especially for someone who has much older parents? Sorry, mom and dad. But it's a completely different generation. I mean, I'd say we're probably Generation Z is probably the first generation that's actually dealt with having a large social media presence and having an online presence, and their mistakes not going away. So do you think it's hard for parents or parent figures?
Even yourself, I don't think that you were old at all, but like you always say, like you feel like you're not in on the social media stuff.
I'm not in on anything.
Yeah.
But I'm also off all of that, moreover than my friends. Like my friends also, they're just like, you're like an old grandma. You don't know anything. My sister says that I live under a rock.
Same here.
But
Same here.
yeah. I do think that it's hard for parents to understand that. I mean, I think it doesn't matter what generation. Generationally speaking, right? Like parents and children, like just the generation gap definitely tends to have a lot of misunderstandings. But I think that what's important in that is communication. But with what you're saying now, I'm thinking even with communication, if they're not in that, it is hard to understand, right? And even though I'm not in that the way that you guys are, right? Like I can see some of it, but I don't get it or feel it, right? Like, or I can get it and I can see where you're coming from, but I don't live that and I don't feel that. So I don't really understand it the way that you guys all do.
Yeah, you don't experience it like the same way.
No.
We don't have the same take on it, I guess.
Or even like other teens, a lot of my friends will be like, you're getting bullied online, just put your phone down, which like to an extent I understand, but also that's like a place of like being naive. You've never been cyberbullied. You don't understand like you cannot hide from that.
No.
Yeah.
It's not as simple
Not
as
at
putting
all.
your phone down.
No, you
No,
can't
it
hide
never
from
will
it.
be. No. It's a terrible thing. And during our intro section, we talked about how you see like social media problems more with middle school. And I'd agree because I swear in like 7th grade, there was a girl going to the guidance counselor every day after lunch, and it always had to do with something social media based. So do you think there's like a reason for it more in middle schoolers than high schoolers? Because I don't know if it's sense of a lack of maturity or the fact that they've just now received this new device that they can really do whatever they want. Like, I mean, it's essentially an all like knowing thing in the palm of your hands. It's kind of crazy.
I just had this conversation with one of my clients about how I guess the younger generation has now access to every type of information, right? You guys know, I mean, you guys Google like anything that you guys want, you guys have the answer at the tip of your hands, right? You guys even have ChatGPT now to write up a whole thing,
Thank
right?
you, AI. No, I'm joking. I don't use it. I'm just joking.
I tried to. I couldn't figure it out. But
Yeah,
I just
really
couldn't
do
figure it
not.
out, if I'm being honest. Yeah, it proves that I live under a rock. But your access to information, right? And their access to information, elementary school students, middle school students. Yeah, high school students are a little bit mature, but, right? Like, there is no, what's the word I'm thinking about, when you can, like, do a parental control on, like, TV. Like, that was a big thing for us.
Oh,
back in the
yeah.
day, right? Like, where you can, like, control what your kids watch. There really isn't that on social media. And even though social media sometimes tries to filter out through a lot of that, things pop in, right? Things peep through. And sometimes things are on there for a lot longer before it gets reported and gets put away.
Yeah.
And the thing is that the kids are not mature enough to handle that information yet, right? Like, that's why you don't learn about sex ed until a certain age, right?
Yeah.
And when we talk about drugs and alcohol, it's spoken about differently in different age groups, because that is what your maturity is going to understand at that level.
One thing I'll say that I thought my school did really well is, I know I just said that there were always girls crying going into the class, but it is true, though, during, like, 5th grade and 6th grade, every single year, essentially, we had an entire thing on cyberbullying. Mainly in my computer/library class, we would log on to this website and we would do activities based on preventing cyberbullying or combating it or how to react to it. And I thought it was a really good tool, especially for us middle schoolers to have, because, as we've said, you see it more in middle schoolers than high schoolers. Not saying it doesn't happen in high school, but, you know.
Yeah, I know. So I just learned about Ascend It on Snapchat.
What's that?
Oh, like your
Send it?
rising sign?
I don't know.
Ascendant?
Send it.
Oh.
it, like
Send
that thing where
it.
people
Oh, I don't know
anonymously
why I
say
heard
whatever they
in the
want.
beginning.
I guess.
Yeah, it's the
What?
thing where, like, people can slide up on your Snapchat story and anonymously send you something.
They can
As an
anonymous?
ex-evil middle schooler, that is literally where they breed bullies.
Wait
I've
a
said
minute, you can
exactly.
do
I
it
have said
anonymously?
so
Exactly.
many nasty things. In, like, when I was younger, I was really mean. I'm better now. I'm hosting a podcast on mental health. Of course, I've changed.
Yeah.
But when I was young, I was so mean.
I was not
I've-
mean,
that,
I
like-
think.
I was.
Like,
I wasn't.
But a lot of problems start there.
Things change.
Every day, thousands of kids start vaping. And I can't let this happen to my kid. Of course, it's awkward to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping. Hey, bestie, how sketch is vaping? It's hard to get their attention. Ready? Go. Yes. Look at that. You didn't even turn yours over. So if you want to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping, you got to get it trending.
No, you're doing it wrong.
Let's go.
Can we talk?
Yeah, what's up?
Visit talkaboutvaping.org for tips on when and how to have the vape talk.
as we wrap up, Miss Mack, is there anything else you'd like to tell our audience or who may be dealing with the same issue as Emma?
I definitely think to talk about it and walk through some of the things. I know a lot of times, even for me, right? Like, and I think this could be for any situation, but particularly with this, if I'm comparing myself to somebody or looking on social media and seeing something that makes me feel a particular way, I have a support circle that usually will either help me with my thoughts, right? Like help me debunk those thoughts or help me think why I'm thinking some of those things. Sometimes our support circle might not be the best option to go to, too, right? Like I know some of my girlfriends may probably give me more bad advice than good. I love them to death, though. But we all think the same. So they might not give me the best advice just because we're probably all thinking the same thing. But to talk to somebody that is unbiased might be helpful.
Yeah. That's why I'm so grateful for your role here, like at school.
Yes. And
Shout out, Miss Mack.
once again, I'd like to thank our guests, obviously, Emma, great, and obviously our student assistant counselor, Miss Mack. Thank you. Yes.
Anything else you would like to add, Emma?
No, I think that's it.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. And we're excited to see you guys with our next episode.
Stay tuned.